Welcome back to the Bad Influence podcast where we don't sugarcoat success and we definitely don't shy away from what makes us different. Today, I want to talk about something that's deeply personal to me. What it means to be awkward but yet ambitious. I'm going to share some personal stories about how my own awkwardness has led me to major breakthroughs in my life. So, by the end of this episode, you'll see that being awkward isn't just okay. It's the superpower you need to unlock your full potential. Your curiosity is not a flaw, it's a force that can drive you to greatness. But anyway, let's get started, shall we? One thing that I want to start with is this. Many of us are socially awkward, right? Let's face that fact. Many of us are in that spectrum for some reason. We've been called weird or out of place because of how we interact with others, how we ask questions, or how we express ourselves. In my case, I'm very expressive. I'm Mexican. I am expressive. I express with my hands, with my words, with my entire body sometimes. So people here in the United States think that's awkward because they haven't seen anybody like me in a really long time. And I honestly don't give a shit about what people think. I don't. But I've learned that awkwardness combined with ambition can become your fucking biggest asset. And let me tell you, it's not just a recipe for success, it's a pathway to extraordinary achievements. Imagine walking into a room, feeling out of sync, but knowing that your obsessive interest in what you love will push you to places others can't even dream of. Listen to me, that feels amazing. I've been there, I've done it, and it feels fucking amazing. So what if I told you that the very thing people fucking criticize you for, being too curious, too intense, or too awkward, is actually the foundation for extraordinary achievements? Let's be honest. Let's be honest right now. Society doesn't always value those of us who are a little different. From an early age, we're taught to fit in, right? To be charismatic, to be socially graceful. But if you're someone who feels awkward in social situations, that's not easy. You might have been told that your questions are too blunt or that you talk too much about things that only you seem to care about. I know I have. Maybe you've even felt like your obsession with certain topics or tasks was something to be ashamed of. I know I have. The fucking problem here is that we're conditioned to believe that being awkward is a weakness and it needs to be fixed. But what if being awkward is exactly what sets you apart? That's a good question, right? People who are socially awkward tend to be more introspective. I know I am like that. More curious and often more focused on the things they're passionate about. So that's not a weakness. That's a fucking strength. That's what you need in order for you to actually succeed, to overcome your obstacles, and to actually change not just your life, but other people's lives. But here's the problem. We often let social awkwardness hold us back. We let it make us feel like we're not good enough or that we can't succeed because we don't fit the typical mold of what successful looks like. I know. There's so many examples out there about that. We start to believe that if we're not smooth talkers or natural leaders, we're doomed to fail. But fuck that. And to be honest, that, my friends, is where we're going wrong in this society. Because for me, life is not about fitting in anymore. It's about standing out. It's about turning what others see as awkwardness into the driving force behind your success. It's about redefining societal norms as opportunities for you to shine. Growing up, I was always labeled as awkward. I've always been that person who asks hard questions. I don't hold back. If I have a question in mind, it just comes out. It doesn't go through a filter or anything like that. I just ask it. It doesn't matter who's in front of me. I just ask it because I'm that fucking curious. I'm the person who crosses boundaries without even realizing it. Who's curious to the point that it makes other people uncomfortable. I've done that so many times. That's why people don't like me. That's why people literally don't want to talk to me most of the times because I don't give a fuck. I'll ask questions. You tell me something, and if it catches my attention, I'm going to ask you about it. I'm going to question you about it. Not because I want to like press you or some shit like that. No, it's because I really want to know. I'm curious, so I want to know. I'd ask questions that people didn't want to answer. And I keep digging because my curiosity wouldn't let me stop. And guess what? A lot of people didn't like that, and they still don't. They didn't understand why I couldn't just go with the flow like everyone else. Just be quiet, be on the corner, just listen and never ask questions, right? Because a lot of people, even leaders, political leaders, don't want to be questioned right now. They're like, oh, don't question me, right? But here's what happened. When my wife got sick, when my wife literally almost died, that awkwardness became my biggest strength. We were dealing with so many doctors, so many diagnoses, like one after the other. Every week there was something new. Every week we were getting new diagnoses, new medicines every week. So I was like overwhelmed. And the worst part about this is that no one seemed to have answers at the beginning, which it happens a lot, right? Because you're sick, you're getting all the tests done, you go see different doctors, everybody has a fucking opinion, but nobody gives you a good solution, right? So in this situation, my curiosity kicked into overdrive. I started researching, asking even more questions, and observing every little detail about my wife's symptoms. That's when I realized being awkward meant I was relentless. It meant I wouldn't stop until I found the answers we needed. That's when I realized that my so-called awkwardness wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was the very thing that helped me help my wife. And it wasn't just about my wife's illness. That same obsessive curiosity, that same drive to ask the hard questions is what helped me build this podcast. I didn't have any experience when I started, but I had this burning obsession to learn. I threw myself into it, learning everything I could do or I could learn about podcasting, marketing and reaching an audience and all of that. Team of one makes mistakes of many, right? That's how I see it. It's team of one, or I mean two, me and my wife. I even had to learn how to communicate in English, just to put it that way. Like, I was like, I want to do this, but I have to learn English. And I'm still learning right now. I'm learning new words. That's why I read books and everything, and I always ask my wife, what does this word mean? Shit like that. She may not like it sometimes because I don't know, but I'm learning. That's the thing about being awkward and ambitious. You're never fucking done. The obsession keeps you going. And like in my wife's case, because her illness will never go away, I have to literally be so fucking curious to make sure that I can help her, because obviously there's gonna be new symptoms, new medications that may cause problems and shit like that, so I have to keep an eye on her. Now, if I had let my awkwardness hold me back, if I had worried too much about what people thought of me, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have built my podcast or helped others through their struggles, especially my wife. I learned that it's not about changing who you are, it's about harnessing who you are and using it to fuel your ambition. That's the best part, and that's how you need to see it. Use that to fuel your ambition. Don't allow it to hold you back. Because if you allow it to hold you back, you'll never reach the milestones that you want to reach. So, how does this all work? Because it sounds great, right? But how does it all work? How do you turn something like social awkwardness into an extraordinary achievement? Well, let's get into it then. First, let's talk about the power of obsession. And I'm talking about like a good obsession, right? Because being awkward often means you think differently. You see the world from a unique perspective. That's what allows you to go deep into your interests, to become laser focused on something that others might see as just a passing curiosity. It's that deep dive, that obsessive focus that leads to mastery. Think about some of the most successful people in history: Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and many more. They've been all labeled as awkward at some point, but they didn't let that stop them, right? I mean, the best example is Steve Jobs. A lot of people hated him, but he was a good leader and he stuck to his vision. And look what Apple did. They changed the fucking world. In fact, this is why I need you to understand. All these people, all these famous people and successful people that have succeeded despite their awkwardness, their obsession with their passion, their obsession with their vision is what drove them to extraordinary success. When you're truly obsessed with something, you don't care if others think you're fucking weird or awkward. You care about the work, the learning, and the progress. That's the only thing that you care about. You dive into your work, you start learning more about it, and then you love the progress. You create the progress. That's what I love about doing this. Here's the second thing. Being socially awkward often means you're more introspective. You spend a lot of time thinking, reflecting, and observing, which is something that I do a lot. And that's a huge asset when it comes to problem solving. When it comes to finding a solution, that awkwardness, that reflection, that reflective personality and observer personality helps you a lot. That's how I have been able to overcome some of the biggest challenges in my life. Not just for me, but with my wife as well. That's how I have been able to help her. Because you're not just accepting things at face value. You're questioning, you're digging deeper, and that's how you come up with solutions that others might miss, especially doctors. You're not afraid to ask the questions no one else is asking, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Because it's not about people, it's about the end goal, finding a damn solution. But there's a balance to this. As someone who's obsessed with learning and achieving, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Oh, yes. It's so fucking easy. Obsession, if not managed, can consume you. There are examples of this throughout history, like Nikola Tesla. I watched a documentary about him a few years ago. It talked about how Tesla was so obsessed with his vision of changing the world that he didn't care about the money. He was like, fuck the money. I just need the money to create more inventions, to literally just do what I want to do. And because of that, others convinced him to give up his royalties to pretty much everything that he had created. That's why he ended up pretty much broke when he was about to die. And that's one of the reasons why it's essential to take breaks, step back, and see things from an outsider's perspective. Make sure everything is going according to plan. And if not, if you see something that is not making sense or anything that you don't like, make the necessary tweaks and recharge. I use the Pomodoro technique to help me manage my time and energy. This is something that I always talk about. I also make sure to spend time with my wife, to disconnect from work, so that when I come back, I'm ready to go full throttle again. I don't just go all in until I win. No. I go all in for 25 minutes, then I take my breaks, then I go back in, and that has helped me a lot. And you may be thinking, but what if my awkwardness is just too much? What if people don't take me seriously because of it? And that's a good question, and I have actually asked myself these two questions as well. So here's what I've learned. People might not take you seriously at first, but once they see the results of your obsession, they won't be able to ignore you. That's what always happens. Success speaks louder than awkwardness. When you're driven by something you care deeply about, when you're obsessed with mastering it, people will start to notice. They're going to look at you and be like, damn, he actually did it. Damn, I need to hang out with him. Damn, I need some of that intelligence to rub off on me. Think about this. Every time you doubt yourself because you feel out of place, remember that the people who fit in perfectly don't always achieve extraordinary things. They're too busy blending in. It's the people who stand out, who are willing to embrace their awkwardness and channel their obsession, who end up changing the world. So don't let the fear of not fitting in stop you from pursuing what sets your soul on fire. The world doesn't need more people who are afraid to be themselves. It needs more people who are willing to lean into their uniqueness, who are willing to push boundaries, ask hard questions, and be relentless in the pursuit of what they love. So, if you've ever felt like your social awkwardness was a curse, I'm here to tell you it's not. It is not. It's the very thing that will set you apart and propel you to greatness. Sure, it's going to take a few years, a few months, a few weeks. It's not going to happen overnight. But you've got to stop fucking worrying about being liked and start focusing on being obsessed with what you're passionate about. When you do that, everything changes. Everything will change as soon as you start doing this, because you're going to find a different version of yourself. You'll find yourself achieving things you never thought possible, all because you were willing to embrace your awkwardness and let it fuel your ambition. Now, let's talk about how you can harness your own awkwardness and turn it into a tool for success. This is how I did. This is what I've been doing for the last 10 years. First, identify your obsession. What's the one thing you can't stop thinking about? The thing you love to learn about or work on. Once you know what it is, dive in. Do your research. Read the books. Do everything in your power to learn more about it. So that way you can see if you're willing to put in the work. Don't just dip your toes. Go all in. Learn everything you can about it. Do everything. Like I said, read the books, watch the videos, take the courses, talk to experts, whatever it takes to master it. Don't hold back. Second, embrace your awkwardness. Stop trying to hide it or change it. Instead, use it to your advantage. Your social quirks might make you feel out of place, but they also make you unique. They allow you to think differently, to approach problems in ways that others don't. Lean into that. Let your awkwardness to be the thing that sets you apart. Third, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. If you're naturally curious, don't hold back. Push the boundaries of what people are comfortable with. Obviously, don't push too hard because a lot of people may not like it. But for example, and I'm going to give you this example, I'm quality control. I've been working on quality control for a really long time. And because of my own curiosity, because I ask the questions, because I try to find solutions as to what caused the problem, I push boundaries at work. It's like, no, motherfuckers. If somebody says, oh, we don't know how this happened, it's like, okay, how the hell you don't know how this happened when you're running this line and the issue happened literally right in front of you? Like, we need to break this down into steps so we can make sure that this doesn't happen again, because this problem is going to cause us a lot of problems. And that's why people don't like me. But that's fine. I'm doing my job. I'm literally leaning into my awkwardness of trying to figure out every single fucking detail of what caused the problem, and I usually am pretty good at it. That's why I'm making the money that I'm making right now at my job, because I have the experience, I learn, and I don't care who says no. I'm like, no, I'm going to figure this shit out. I don't want any more fucking problems to happen, because in the end, if we keep having more and more problems, it's going to hurt the whole company. And I know, it's hard. Sometimes it's the uncomfortable questions that lead to the biggest breakthroughs. When you ask uncomfortable questions, people might start thinking about them. They might not give you the answers right away, but at one point or another, they usually do have the answers. Just because others don't understand your curiosity doesn't mean you should stop asking. Keep pushing, keep questioning. And last but not least, take care of yourself. As I mentioned earlier, obsession can be overwhelming, so it's easy to get burned out if you're not careful. That's why it's important to take breaks, to step back and recharge. Whether it's using the Pomodoro technique or simply spending time away from your work, make sure you're taking care of your mental and emotional well-being so you can come back stronger. Don't let yourself burn out. Every single one of you has the potential to achieve something extraordinary. And if you're someone who feels awkward or out of place, that potential is even greater. You've got a unique perspective and a unique drive. And if you can harness that, there's nothing stopping you from achieving greatness. Remember, being awkward isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And when you combine that with ambition and obsession, oh shit, you become unstoppable. You become a force to reckon with. So stop worrying about fitting in. Stop worrying about what others fucking think. Instead, focus on what you're passionate about. Let your obsession drive you, and embrace the awkwardness that makes you who you are. The world needs more people like you. People who are willing to think differently, to push boundaries, and chase their dreams with everything they've got. You need to be one of those people if you want to change your life. You need to be one of those people if you want to change the world. If you want to see the change that you see, if you want to see the change in the world that you see in your imagination, then you gotta put it out there. You gotta go out there and make it happen. That's the only way to actually do it. That's the only way that Steve Jobs was able to do it. Same thing with Musk, same thing with everyone. Look throughout history. Even Henry Ford had to go through this. Everyone that became successful by changing the world, by not giving a fuck about what others thought of them, went through this exact same thing that I'm talking about. That awkward phase, that part of their lives where where they were not fitting in, and all of that. And if they were able to do it, so can you. Don't be afraid. Stop being afraid. Just go for it. Find what you love. Find what you love. Find that obsession. Find that one thing that you obsess about. Work on it. Learn. Become better at it. And put it out there. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me on the Bad Influence podcast. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can create a world where being different is celebrated, where ambition and obsession lead to extraordinary achievements. So stay ambitious, stay curious, and keep pushing forward. Until next time, have a great day.